Now if you've got one of these VAX Blade vacuum cleaners and you find that the head suddenly stops working or intermittently works, and when you turn to one side or the other it cuts out, then it's a sign that the cable that runs from the motor to the plug connection here is broken around this area where it does the swiveling. So I'm going to show you how to fix that in this video. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing to do is get it apart. So we'll start by removing these 3 screws on the ends and these 3 on the opposite end. So let's take them out. Once you've taken the screws out, remove the cap from each end. Note on this end, the opposite side to the belt, the brush bar will come out with it. Like that. If it doesn't, it does push back on. Put those 6 screws separate, probably best places in one of the end caps, as they are a different length to the ones we're going to be removing from the base. Next, we're going to need to remove all the screws from the base of the head, starting with these 3 here. Underneath here is where the plug connections are for when you put the extension bar on. And this is where the cables start from and go down to the board on the motor assembly. So that's your plug and the start of your cable there. So I'm going to carry on and take these screws out and I'll come back to you. Right, so now you've removed your screws from the base, this top can now be prised up and off. And that reveals the inside of the head. And what we're interested in is replacing these 2 cables that run to the plug here. If you've got a multimeter, you can just test the lead by putting 1 probe on the minus of the plug and then into the connector there, and I've got absolutely nothing. Then another test on the positive side of the plug. And I've got continuity there. So it's safe to say the negative is the problem there. So what I'll do, I shall splice into the cables here and here and run them through to the plug and connect them up the back of the plug. I'm using some heat shrink on the connections and of course solder joints. Make sure when you open this plug that you get the plus and the minus in the right orientation. It's marked minus here and plus here, which obviously it will be the red connection. Oh, there you go. My negative has actually snapped there clean out. So that proves my point. So I'll get some cables sorted out and we'll get it soldered in. Now to give better access so we can get the cable through this section and out underneath, we're going to need to remove these 2 screws so we can actually take out the swivel section. So it's just a case of removing these. And then you need to get this out, push that forward, and then unscrew this clockwise. And once you've done that, you can pull this away from the hose. And now if we look, you've got a tab there. Where is it? There. You need to press that in, hold it. This one has released. Keep it pulled forward with your finger. Go to the top here and using a suitable tool, detach this piece of plastic and put it to one side. You can now see that your cable can be pulled through from the and put that to one side. We'll now go about joining the cables either directly to the board here or cutting around here, soldering and heat shrinking the two joints. If you've got desoldering equipment, then by all means go down onto the board, take the board off, desolder and solder directly, but many of you won't have that, so I'm going to do it by just cutting and joining there. So let's get the stuff ready to do that. Now the cable I'm going to use is some mains flex from a figure of 8 lead, I think it was. It's pretty flexible stuff and it looks about the right gauge. So, and it's copper core, so should last reasonably well. I mean, I don't know for sure till I try it, but I mean, I would use whatever cable you've got at hand really, if it's about the right thickness. So let's get on with that. Okay, so I've stripped a little bit back of the insulation on each cable and tinned each end with some solder. I'm now going to just solder these together. My red one. Okay, so then cool a minute before I slide the heat shrink up. It should be okay. Okay, so once you've got your heat shrink in position, take a lighter or your come up. You could use your tip of your soldering iron just to shrink that down, and that's that end done. Now we'll go and work on the plug end. Okay, so we now need to thread our cable through. So we'll go through here and then into this part here. And pull it through, leaving plenty of slack at this stage. tuck the cable down into this recess for now, because that'll make wrong way around. That's probably a bit too much cable. Just take a bit more from it. Okay. Press that into there. Take our piece of plastic and clip that back into place. Like that. Don't worry if I've got a bit too much cable there. You can lose it inside the head. That obviously will have to come back through there. So push all the way forwards. This needs to be screwed on anti-clockwise. That's it. Put it back. Put that back into its place and route these cables down into that little recess there. Okay, something like that. Now once we've got it to that stage, we can just pop that on for a second, just to hold it in place while we work on this side. Now when it comes to the plug end, when you strip back the heat shrink, we can see that the actual wires are soldered to the contacts of the plug, which makes life quite a bit easier for us. No crimping. So we're going to desolder that on each, and then we'll cut the cables to length, put some heat shrink on there and get them soldered up. Okay, so once you've desoldered your pins and removed the cables, that's what they look like. You can see there's two holes there for the new cables to slot into. So we're going to just pop them back in to the holder because I want to get a length for the cables. So this will only go in one way, the flat side going down, so just rest it there. Take your two cables, just push a tiny bit back, remembering that these are polarized, so that is the live in my case and that is the negative. So I'm going to cut them around there for the minute. Just take this out and have a look. Yeah, the positive is on this side in my case. Right, so there we are, soldered and ready for the heat shrink to be applied. So we'll just pull it up. Take out a lighter and shrink that down. That should do it. Now all we need to do is get these in the right side of the plug. So the plus in my case is the brown, so that will go there, and the negative will go that side, and we just need to put the top on the plug, which will only fit one way. Which is like that, and the plug will only fit one way into here, which is that flat side down. Let's get a bit of solder out of there. Okay, now just push these back so they fit nicely, and that's it, that's in. We can now put that top back on. Now if we just pop it back over and take our top back off, we can just have a look how the cables are lying inside, which I'm happy with that. Yeah, there's no problem. So now we can reassemble it and all should be good. So I'll stick the screws back in and I'll get back to you when it's all back together. Right, so it's all back together. Just one thing to note, there's no need to remove that screw there when you strip it down, because all it does is hold this plastic, and we only need to remove this back half. So we just need to test it now, so let's couple it up with the old VAX, and hopefully it'll work. Oh yes, that'll do. Before it was intermittent until it finally stopped, so that appears to have cured it. How long it'll last, I have no idea. But this is approximately 4 years old, so if I get 4 years out of it before I need to replace it again, I'm quite happy. So that's my method of doing it. I hope that's been of some help to you. Many thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.